Think and Grow Rich. And I had some interesting conversations this morning around this. So I want to talk to you guys, and I want to see an honest show of hands. How many finished getting through chapter 2, Desire, in its entirety? Raise your hands. And I'm seeing 3 out of currently 17. So here's the fun part. What I really want to focus on today is the first half of that chapter. We're going to extend this to tomorrow as well, because it's absolutely so important that we nail this piece and really nail the mindset elements around it, the belief around it. We can read the words all we want, and yet if we have not installed the belief, it's not going to do a darn thing. So that being said, chapter 2, Desire, and yes, it is a long one, Julianne, is it? I'm going to get back to my attendees. You guys here, it's your room more than mine. Carrie, your mic's hot as always.
Oh, shit. Sorry.
Well, I'm going to isolate that one for a future reel.
I'm sorry. I was talking earlier. I'm not good. I'm not good.
I can't wait. I got to make a note of that. Carrie OS. We can use that as a pop-up in the room.
I'm so sorry. So I listened to it. I didn't read it. Therefore, I didn't highlight it. So I'm just going to let other people talk, because I have an appointment today and I really need to keep my brain together.
Well, keep it together and let's get Julianne going. What do you got, my dear?
All right. So what I extraordinarily love about this chapter, and the reason I didn't finish it all, is because it's a deep dive. It's really the way I like to learn. I don't want to be glossed over, and this one takes a deep dive and into the definiteness. I don't know how do you say definiteness. There we go. Definiteness. Like, it's not a word that we use a lot, but he uses a lot in here. Definiteness. It's the deepest level of being specific about what you want. So I like that on again, we can't do pages because we're all in different versions. A remarkable illustration of the power of definite desire. This isn't just regular desire. He calls it white hot desire. He calls it deepest desires. Here he calls it a definite desire, right? Barnes won his goal because he wanted his business to be a business associate of Mr. Barnes, ... But he burned all the bridges behind him. So he's referencing back to chapter 1, where he has a one-way ticket. He doesn't have any money to get back. He doesn't have any desire to get back because his one definite goal. But I was like, my margin notes in this is he made a decision, and a true decision by its definition means to cut off all other choices. And the decidere is to sever, to cut in the Latin form. So the word decide is to cut off all other choices. Now, most people know they can change their minds, but not if you have a definite desire, because that is the one and only. That I love the 6 steps and how he actually tells you. I mean, it may seem rudimentary or elementary, and maybe you can skip a couple, but you can't. And that these 6 steps were devised first.
So let's take a pause there a minute, because we have already thrown in here, Julianne, decide, desire, burn the boats. Now the 6 steps, all of which require a little more diving. And so I want to at least hit on the decide piece, because it's not just cut off. Because that sounds like maybe we could fix that. It's really much deeper than that. What do pesticides do? Yeah, kill pests. What's suicide?
Kill yourself.
What's homicide?
To kill others.
So what is decide? To kill off every other option. That's the only time I've known you've made a decision. I've had a couple of powerful conversations so far this morning, one-on-one with some of you guys, and more coming. And Kim and I had a fierce conversation on decide. Are you committed? Are you all in? That's where the magic happens, guys. It's not I'm going to test the waters, I'm going to dip my toe in. It's, we're going to do this no matter what. Now, I saw Celeste. I saw your mic hot. So I'm going to let you come on in.
You know, I wish I could convey the willingness to make their dream come true, that desire that they keep talking about. It's as if they're on a path of only one direction. They're going one way only. And whether or not they're going to succeed, they don't even they're not even thinking about success. They're not thinking about it. They just want to make sure that what they believe is going to be where they're going. And I'm thinking about, and maybe I'm moving on too fast, but the story of his son. And is that the second half? That's the part you don't want to talk about today?
Yeah, hold that. Hold on to that for tomorrow. We'll see, because we have so much meat right here.
You know, I feel like I wish everybody would be participating, because I think there's so much that you need in your being to read this book and take it in and think of your successes. And when you really had a true success, if you thought about it, you would say, that's because I had no alternative. I needed this to work. And that's what this chapter is about. And it's an enjoyable book. I'm listening to it and I'm reading at the same time, and I'm highlighting everything. I'll just say this. I go back to what you just said, Julianne. This idea of the mission, this desire. He left himself no possible way of retreat. He had to win or perish. And we're talking about this man, what's his name? Barnes, wanting to be a business partner with Edison. And if you read this, you're going to realize he was on a mission. He was going to make this happen. All of us have to feel that in our businesses. What is it that you want? Do you really want it? And if you do, what are you willing to do to make it happen? I'm teaching myself right now by talking to you guys. I'm listening to my own words and saying, this is the coaching I need. What the heck am I doing? Am I in this to win it? Or am I in it to just kind of say I'm doing something? And I have been, unfortunately, doing it kind of, there's a tipping point, and the tipping point starts today.
Awesome. So I want to talk about the one thing you've kind of touched on that I made a note on, that I'm going to cross off on all the notes that you guys are throwing at me, and that's this participate piece. Because you're absolutely right. There are people in this room that are in the stands watching. Heck, most of them have their cameras off because they're attempting to multitask, which we know doesn't work. And then there's another group of people that are on the sidelines. They're debating, and yet they're letting their drunk monkey get in their head that maybe they'll look bad or they won't sound good or something of that sort. And then there's a smaller group that are actually playing all in this room and speaking up and participating. And guys, how you participate here is how you participate everywhere. If you want to be a great real estate agent, do you really think people who are making the most important decision financially in their life usually are going to look for somebody meek and timid and quiet and unsure of themselves? If you're looking to build and attract talent, whether it's an executive assistant or it's other agents on your team or other people in your business, do they want a wallflower, or do they have somebody who's passionate about what they have to speak about? I'm going to challenge you guys based on Celeste. Speak up here and participate, starting with Justin. Then I saw Kim, and I also saw Ann. I got all your names written down. What do you got, Justin?
So I think this is in the first couple of pages of the Desire chapter. It says, only those who become money conscious ever accumulate great riches. Money consciousness means that the mind has become so thoroughly saturated with the desire for money that one can, and I wrote the word only in here, one can only see oneself already in possession of it. There's a whole bunch of good stuff, but we skip to the next page. It says, if you do not see great riches in your imagination, you will never see them in your bank balance. And I would tell you, when I look around at people that I know, and even some of my past weakness, looking at the bank balance constantly and seeing how much money is or isn't there gets in the way of seeing it in one's imagination. And I think that's an interesting thing that this book does not talk about what to not think about. Every page is what to think about, and they don't talk, but it's as much as you are going to think and grow something regardless, whether you believe in it or not. So you might as well think the right way.
And that's why this is written that way, by the way, because that damn drunk monkey, that subconscious mind has no filter for what you desire or don't desire, what you want or don't want. It takes everything in as verboten. It is the word. So, and I've said this multiple times, I'll say it again. If in front of a room of 1,000, when I'm on stage at Build in in March, in front of 3,000-4,000 of my friends, if I'm walking around going, I'm going to trip, I'm going to trip, I'm going to trip, I'm going to trip, what's going to happen? If I'm walking around saying, don't trip, don't trip, don't trip, don't trip, what's going to happen? Same thing. And so instead, we think and we focus on what we truly desire. And part of my conversations today, as we're getting into this money mindset piece here, is we got to let go of some of the story that we have been intrinsically given around money and riches, that rich people are bad, that money is the root of all evil. We have all this historic programming, which I usually ask, and I'll tell you, we got from our parents, they got from their parents, and their parents are the next generation before that, because we have youngsters in the room now, went through the Depression. So that pain around money was so significant. That's where these stories began. Know that I have a number of friends, one I can think right now, who is a multimillionaire in Las Vegas, who is from somewhere, Saudi Arabia, one of the Arab countries, who came to America and couldn't believe all the negative chatter around wealth. He came from one of the poorest places. He showed up here with nothing. And yet he couldn't believe all this chatter about wealth, because the outside world sees this as the place where anything's possible. The outside world knows that in this America, you can do whatever the heck you want. And yet we keep this crazy, silly money mindset that's not meeting us. Kim, you're up.
So, couple random thoughts. To your thought about generations, like we carry things from one generation to the next, including the negative talk. And money's just one example. It can be about hundreds of other things. And particularly the people in this room, we carry on the conversations from our grandparents.
Kim, lean in. Your mic's doing that same darn thing.
We carry the same conversations from our parents and our grandparents, including the silent generation that went through the Depression. We're still carrying that. And I believe it was even Scott Toombs that said, I can't remember, Russ, what the statistic was, but it was like 90% of us make, within the same money that our parents made. Like, don't leave that income bracket. It's extremely rare to leave that income bracket. But whatever we were raised, we continue that pattern 20, 30, 50 years later.
Absolutely. And so, and I'm going to paraphrase, just to make sure everybody got that. She's talking about that familial income bracket that we were raised in. And for us to truly break through that, create some challenges, both in our subconscious, maybe in our community, maybe with the people we're hanging out with. And great riches allow you great opportunity to make magic happen. And you're saturated in this world from your family, your story, and whatever you seem is reasonable. This was part of the conversations I was having today, one-on-one. And so I want to bring back in the room George Bernard Shaw's quote on the unreasonable man. Because the reasonable man adapts himself to the world. The unreasonable man persists in trying to adapt the world to himself. Therefore, all progress depends on the unreasonable man. And I want to give you guys what is my perception of the most unreasonable in our world right now. Has Elon Musk time and time again been an unreasonable man? When everybody said, that's not reality, he went, watch me.
Yep.
What would your life be like if you came with that same energy and attitude? And you were next up, Client and Caesar. I see both of you.
All right, I will go. I'm loving the word saturation. Both Justin said it, Russ said it. It's possibly in the book. I'm only listening right now, not reading. But it made me think how my head is saturated with my family, my joy, my love, my patience, my doing good in the world, and money, the root of all evil. And I've sort of given up those thoughts a long time ago, the negative thoughts around money. But I have not saturated my head with the alternative that, I am wealthy, that money is so important to me that I saturate my world, my head, and my life with it the same way that I have saturated my life and my head and my heart with my people. So saturating my world with my money in a way that is positive, joyful, committed, powerful, empowering, doing good in the world. So.
Well, you are making that magic happen, and it's fun to be a part of it. And guys, this stripping away of the story is phenomenal. And now we truly have to believe no matter what. That means in those darkest moments when things don't go our way, when shit falls apart, when transactions die, we still know in our heart we're doing the right thing, chasing the right dream, and we're not going to stop no matter what. Client brother, you're up.
Yeah. Hey, good morning, everyone. One of the things that kind of grabbed me, talking about Elon Musk, whether you're a fan or you're not a fan, the criticisms have been critical of him. One of the things that's really interesting is how very little he cares. and that's a lesson for me. I was reading this book or something, and the person said, I doth care not. I do not care. And I think that's one of the most powerful frame of references that we can put ourselves in when we absolutely do not care what you think about the process that I'm taking to move myself forward. And you're speaking to me has no bearing. One of the things that have been very powerful with me as of late in regards to my kids, they'll say, oh, this, that, and they'll start arguing. And I'll simply say, I said what I said. And I'm done. And they'll sit there for about 30 more seconds to argue, and they see, oh yeah, he said what he said. He's done. And I'm off and I'm gone. And the empowerment of that is huge. It's its own level of empowerment. That's it.
Well, let's empower all of us to continue speaking up. We've got fresh voices showing up. Caesar, my friend.
Thank you,
The floor
Coach.
is yours.
I wanted to bring up, which I believe is on page 36, and 2 videos, Carrie, which you shared, Coach, you shared in our past trainings, and Carrie, I recently shared with you, which says he should have told us that the ether in which this little earth floats, which we move and have our being, is a form of energy moving at an inconceivable high rate of vibration. And and that the ether is filled with a form of universe power that which adapts itself to the nature of thoughts we hold in our minds. So in that video, when we were observing and things were changing and it's like a high rate of speed, that's what it reminded me of from that quote. And as well on page 37, the free throw brought that video from Eric Thomas where he holds the guy's head down. It's like when you feel that you can't, when you have the desire to breathe as much as you want to work. I forget what the whole quote is, but that's what that one quote here reminds me of. Until the desire for money drives us to create definite plans for acquiring it. So like you need to have this like intense desire to reach that goal. And finally, with the Elon Musk, he constantly pushes the boundaries of stripping things from materials, or why is it done that way, or questioning why it's done. And it's obviously helped reach what it is today. He has multiple businesses, and recently I just found out that he's like top 20 in some video game. You don't understand like the level of time that you have to put in a video game to be in those levels, high ranking. So I don't understand how the guy how his mind works, but it's an amazing thing to see from an outsider. And if you have the chance to hear or read his audiobook or his biography, I would highly do that. Put that on the list as well.
Caesar, were you listening to the Joe Rogan podcast?
Certainly was, sir.
Yeah. By the way, think about that. The idea of having 45 million views of a 3-hour podcast 5 years ago was like, no, never, no, nah. Another unreasonable man in Elon Musk. And I'm looking forward to you guys leaning into this and staying unreasonable. As clients said, that means not caring if you look bad or are wrong. Allowing those things to happen, and it's okay, you still step in. The only difference between NASA and SpaceX is screwed up more often. They have blown more stuff up. They have had more accidents, more tragedies, more failures, and it has allowed them to propel forward. So also I want to put in there on this unreasonableness, stay out of fear of failure and instead embrace it and celebrate it, because that means you're moving forward. Celeste, I saw you, and Carrie, I saw you pop in as well. Celeste.
You know, I feel like this was a really great chapter. All I can tell you is I loved, and I keep going back to this, so I'm sorry, but the second part of this chapter.
Can't
really
do it. No,
hits with
that's
me.
tomorrow.
I know.
That's
I want to talk about it tomorrow.
All right. Carrie, what do you got?
Two things. There was I posted on my Facebook page. It said, "Do not accept no when there's always when there's still a possibility of yes." The second thing is to go to Anne. So just really quick. So over the last 20 years, I was married, divorced, a single mom, and an empty nester. Okay. So during that entire time, I was learning about the law of attraction, secret, this and that, all these things that we're learning about, right? My head was so full of everything. I could take in the learnings, but you have 3 kids by yourself and try to figure that out. So anyway, so my mind was super full, and in the background I was learning, but it wasn't until each kid started leaving that my brain was a little bit like could take in a little bit more. And I've been an empty nester now for a little while. and then I cared about a lot of things because I didn't have the capacity just to care about myself, but I would learn about it. So now I have all the time in the world to just put it towards this and therefore not care. I don't care about not in a bad way, but my kids are on their own. They're living their own life. Like I've got to take care of my life now. And part of that is like, so I've made the decision to do what I'm doing and I am certain about it. And I just don't, I cared about everybody else. Now it's just, you're good. They're good. I'm good.
How does that certainty feel?
Amazing. It gives me so much confidence. Like if you knew me back in the day, like I was the meek person that followed people or isolated myself at home. So this person is a 50,000% different than I was, and it gives me lots of confidence. And I'm very, very grateful for the people that I've been surrounding myself here.
So I want to get two things in the room to celebrate that and get Carrie and others to make sure they're taking action. So in this first half, there were these 6 steps to actually get desire transmuted into riches. So I want to go through them real quick, and then I'm going to ask you guys to show me step 5, because some of you already did this in theory. So step 1, fix in your mind the exact amount of money you desire. It's not sufficient to say I want plenty of money. It's not sufficient to say I want, more money. We need a definitive number. Your brain loves specificity. Number 2, determine exactly what you intend to give in return for the money. Okay? So nothing, it ain't free. So the time, effort, energy. Number 3, a definitive date when that will happen. So I was speaking with some folks this morning, and I'll have more conversations around how much by what date. That could be a monthly. And that's what I've been working with folks on, is having a conversation about how much a month. And I'm actually giving them a number. This much a month. Now you give me the timeline. Number 4, create a definitive plan for carrying out your desire, and then begin it at once. Whatever you desire, if it's a 5-year plan, you can back down and break down to a daily action today, like we've done in so many other places. 5th, write out a clear, concise statement of the amount of money, the time limit, what you're going to give, and the plan. Should maybe look something like this. Yes, I've got it right here in my hand, Celeste, going through this again and following the model. By the way, it's my bookmark, the opposite side of my bookmark. So am I going to read it every day? That's my habit for making sure. And find 6, read that written statement twice aloud every day at a minimum. Guys, take the action, follow the model, be unreasonable, and make this decision. And here's why. One of my favorite poems, often attributed to Goethe, but it was actually William Hutchins Murray, who is the one who climbed Mount Everest. Until one is committed, there is hesitancy, the chance to draw back. Concerning all acts of initiative and creation, there is one elementary truth, the ignorance of which kills countless ideas and splendid plans. That the moment one definitively commits oneself, then providence moves too. All sorts of things occur to help one that would never otherwise have occurred. A whole stream of events issues from the decision, raising in one's favor all manner of unforeseen incidents and meetings and material assistance, which no man could have dreamed would have come his way. Whatever you can do or dream, you can do. Begin it. Boldness has genius, power, and magic in it. Begin it now.